Hi, I'm Shane Jones. Making headlines tonight. The BERT program gets a positive review from the IMF. Barbadians now have access to another source of free health care. The central bank concerned about global oil prices. And in sports, Bangladesh beat the Windies to take the Tri-Nation Series.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC News Night, starting now.
Leading the news at 7. The Barbados Economic Recovery and Transformation Program has passed the latest IMF report with flying colors. The IMF's Deputy Mission Chief of the Caribbean Division, Bert Van Selm, delivered the positive news this morning at government headquarters. The conference room was filled with members of the IMF's visiting mission and major players in the BERT program. Prime Minister Mia Amor-Motley chaired the meeting, and just after noon, Van Selm revealed that Barbados and the IMF reached a staff-level agreement on the completion of the first review under the Extended Fund Facility Arrangement. $49 million will be made available to Barbados, pending approval by the IMF's Executive Board next month. Mr. Van Selm says Barbados continues to make strong progress in the implementation of the BERT program.
International reserves, which had reached a low of $220 million, 5 or 6 weeks of import coverage at end May 2018, have more than doubled since then. And the completion of the domestic part of the debt restructuring has been very helpful in reducing economic uncertainty. And the new terms agreed with creditors have put debt on a clear downward trajectory. The authorities have started the reform of state-owned enterprises by tightening reporting requirements and by shedding excess staff.
Mr. Van Selm praised Barbados for meeting all of its programs and says the measures outlined in the March budget should achieve government's target of a primary surplus of 6% of GDP. He was pleased with the progress the island is making in implementing structural benchmarks under the EFF,
including those that contribute to an improved business climate, such as the new Planning and Development Act that was passed in January of 2019, and also the sandbox regime to regulate fintech startups that was set up in October of last year, 2018. A new Public Financial Management Act, passed in January 2019, introduced wide-ranging measures to strengthen fiscal transparency and accountability. And also more recently, the government has introduced a system for monitoring arrears of state-owned enterprises on an ongoing basis.
Prime Minister Motley says the people of Barbados and the staff in the Finance Ministry must be thanked for the progress made so far.
It's really the passing of the right road signs on the journey to success and transformation. And we have a few more road signs to pass, but as long as the people of Barbados stay the course, I assure you that we shall be successful in being able to overcome what really was a very turbulent and difficult legacy after a lost decade. But equally, we shall not only overcome if we do and agree on the mission that in all that we do, that we shall be the best that we can be.
The Prime Minister says while she is grateful for the news, she understands there is still much more work to be done.
I will be jubilant when we have created, as I will shortly announce, a new deal for public servants and housing in this country. I will be jubilant and skinning coffins when we restructure the unjust common entrance. I will be jubilant and skinning coffins when we finish restructuring the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, the geriatric hospital, and all of those other things. In other words, I will be jubilant when Barbados has truly reached the first signs of transformation.
When Barbados receives the second payment from the IMF, it will bring the total disbursement under the program so far to $98 million. Barbados has been taken off of the European Union's blacklist this morning. Prime Minister Mia Amor-Motley says it is a relief, but there's still work to be done.
Insurance companies that could have left us will not now do so because they will not be prohibited from doing business in Europe as a result of the blacklist. So this has tangible meanings for us as we go forward. It doesn't mean that the battle is over, because we live in a world, quite frankly, that persons will want to continue to extract every competitive advantage that they can. And competitive advantage also comes from the perspective of the imposition of rules and bureaucracy that will act as a non-tariff barrier in real terms to keep some countries uncompetitive.
The uncertainty surrounding global oil prices is causing concern for the Central Bank of Barbados. Governor Cleviston Haynes says during the economic downturn back in 2008, high oil prices drove up the cost of imports and eroded the country's foreign reserves. Mr. Haynes says the bank therefore supports efforts that encourage the use of clean energy sources.
Significant increases in the price of oil now that we are stabilizing the economy represent a distinct downside risk that could offset our economic recovery efforts. Much emphasis has been placed on solar energy, but bio-based renewables also represent a win-win. They have the potential to power the economy while minimizing waste and enabling us to make the best use of our resources. They generate energy. They help us to manage our carbon footprint. They boost local agricultural production by supplying organic fertilizers. And they improve our tourism value added because the oceans and the island are cleaner.
Mr. Haynes made the comments during a conference on biodigestion at the Grand Salle of the Central Bank. He says the money saved from switching to renewable energy sources could be used to fund projects which stimulate economic activity and fuel growth. He adds such a move will also create new jobs and prospects for investment.
New opportunities will arise for engineers, technicians, technologists, investors, and entrepreneurs. Even Saudi Arabia is harnessing the sun and expanding its solar capacity to create new jobs. We can and must do the same. Our switch to renewables will lead to new industries as well and create the potential for greater investment diversification as investors look for green options for pension funds.
Well, this should cause a bit of a buzz. Barbadians now have access to another source of medical care that they will not have to pay for. This as the American University of Barbados School of Medicine officially launched a free medical clinic located on the grounds of the campus in Wilde St. Michael. Lorna Jones has that story.
Acting Education Minister Senator Lucille Moore was the guest of honor at the inauguration ceremony of the American University of Barbados School of Medicine's free medical clinic. She says it's a welcome addition to the range of medical care options available to Barbadians.
This is a medical clinic, and we do have medical institutions here, but you never have enough. You always want things to make it easier for your citizens to be able to avail themselves of a service. And I am sure that in keeping with AUB's continuous high standard, that this clinic will be one such.
Campus Dean Dr. Syed Kazmi says now that the clinic is up and running, they are working towards offering even more to the public, including free medication and lab testing.
We are already in process of getting permission from the government that they allow us to import the medications from outside, because we want that we can get it in a better price, so because giving free to the patients. In the next phase, we are trying to have the lab set up. So because it's very important when you're looking at the patient and we are prescribing medicine, you need to have some lab test as well. So we initially want to have basic lab test, and then later on we'll go with the other lab tests also.
A major component of the free clinic will be the use of technology.
The idea is that having this IT technology in our clinic will provide more efficient and effective service to the community. Some of the features of this program are highlighting drug-to-drug interaction, drug and diet interactions, uploading history of the patients, all aimed at promoting efficient service.
The clinic will open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday. Lorna Jones, CBC News.
Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade Minister Senator Dr. Jerome Walcott says Cabinet has decided to waive visa restrictions for a number of countries in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. He says they hope the waivers will result in positive spin-offs for Barbados in multiple ways. The minister made the comment in a post-Cabinet press briefing yesterday.
We've also agreed to remove visa requirements for countries like Indonesia, Thailand, and Vietnam. And of course, more recently, we have a presence in Monaco with an honorary consul in Monaco, and requirements for visas were imposed on countries like Monaco. And also this evening, we have agreed to remove those restrictions, recognizing and certainly hoping that the removal of these visa requirements would encourage a number of persons from these countries, not only in terms of tourism, but also in terms of possibility for investment and business.
Health Minister Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Bostick believes a separate service dedicated solely to port health issues needs to be created. He envisions it will boost Barbados' national security and the island's response to health threats. At the moment, the health minister says port health personnel also work at polyclinics. He shared his views on the sidelines of a port health seminar held at the Radisson Aquatica.
We need all the eyes and the ears that we can get to be able to provide proper surveillance. And then this entity should be able to stand on its own, and if there's an incident, hopefully not, at one of the ports of entry, that responding to that incident by port health officials would not impact in a negative way on the remainder of the public health sector, meaning the polyclinics.
The health minister explains the costs will eventually be shared with the respective ports.
I do believe that the airport and the seaports, because I have to include now the Port St. Charles, Port Ferdinand, and whatever else may come later, I don't know. But they need to share in the costs of these services. Yes, there's a health component, and I believe that the Ministry of Health and Wellness has a responsibility to the country to make sure that the officers have all of the equipment that they require in terms of providing health care, in terms of being able to do the surveillance and so on that they do. But at the ports of entry, I think that those entities need to take greater responsibility for providing the infrastructure that would facilitate the performance of the duties of the port health.
In regional news now, KNEX Jamaica has been continuing its series of cannabis investment seminars. The latest was held at the Hyatt Regency Hotel in Trinidad and Tobago yesterday. The event brought together accredited investors, bankers, lawyers, and policymakers and healthcare professionals to offer an overview of the legal cannabis industry and specifically speak on investment opportunities.
Cannabis decriminalization and legalization advocate Dr. Anthony Pottinger noted that previous legislation prevented trial research on the use of marijuana.
The proper controlled randomized, double-blind randomized trials will come and will confirm most of what people have known, almost instinctively. You know, from I was a little boy, you're hearing, you know, asthma and glaucoma and all those things, you know, that the cannabis is good for it. And, you know, it has been borne out, right? You have medicines coming out of these things.
Director of the Caribbean Cannabis Institute, Marcus Ramkisoon, called for proper regulations to be put in place to ensure economic viability.
From an investment perspective, even, it's something that is very good to look at because of the regulations that do exist right now and what's happening within the larger continent in terms of how you can import, export, and so forth for CBD products and non-psychoactive cannabis products. From the regulatory perspective of the Caribbean, my perspective, at least going forward with the governments of the Caribbean, is to ensure that we put regulations in place that would allow for us to produce and manufacture under international guidelines and meeting those international guidelines and requirements.
You're going to want to see this one. Bahamas Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis has announced an investigation into how much paid vacation leave has been issued to civil servants. The Prime Minister made the statement in Parliament during a heated debate between him and Leader of the Opposition, Philip Davis.
In his contribution to the amendment to the Police Staff Association Act, the PLP leader commented on remarks he says were made by the Prime Minister about the PLP's interference in selecting the leadership of the Royal Bahamas Police Force during its administration. The Prime Minister responded by citing details of the government's recent manpower audit of the police force.
I wish to take this opportunity to respond to what he had to say, right? Who accused the PLP of political interferences in the operational affairs of the police force. The government look at different agencies where individuals had an accumulation of vacation leave and decided individuals having these long 1 year, 2 year vacation leave. And Mr. Speaker, I'm trying to find out now from the Ministry of Finance how much millions of dollars we spend annually on vacation leave. Individuals who refuse to take vacation leave, we must pay for vacation leave, and we know what happened.
The Prime Minister also clarified the opposition leader's assertion on previous decisions made by his party on vacation leave within the public service.
The member said, I did not know, I am unaware of what my own party did. In 2009, we brought forth a communication to the police where we allowed them to take a 1 year package in addition to their vacation leave pay and then go into retirement. I refuse to pay individuals for vacation, allow them to take their vacation and then go into retirement. I am not spending the government's money. You were selective in the process. You were selective. You don't have to give me a list. You were selective. Give me a list. But if ever, and you never will, sit in this chair, if ever and you never will, then you can look up the list yourself.
There's a call tonight for a major effort to resuscitate the zoo in Guyana. According to the director of the Tourism Authority, government agencies, the private sector, Guyanese and visitors can all make a difference.
Guyana Zoo was once overflowing with an ample amount of wildlife found locally and even extraneous animals like elephants, lions, tigers, and peacocks. It was once a main tourist attraction for visitors. Sadly, the plethora of animals that were once located in the vicinity of the zoo has seemingly disappeared over the years. Many Guyanese have expressed their utter disappointment in the deterioration and current condition of the zoo in recent years. Director of the Guyana Tourism Authority, Brian Mullis, in an interview with Nightly News, stated that while the Protective Area Commission is interested in the improvement and upgrading of the facilities at the zoo, the resources are currently unavailable.
The current state of the zoo could be improved upon. I think what most people don't realize, however, is that it's actually not a zoo. It's more of an animal rescue and rehabilitation center. That is, a majority of the animals in the zoo have been rescued from various situations to where while the habitat could be improved within the zoo, they are in a better place than they were previously. I personally think that the Animal Rescue and Rehabilitation Center is a better fit for Guyana than having a zoo type of experience.
Mullis clarified that while the zoo does not fall under the purview of the Guyana Tourism Authority, but rather the Protection Area Commission, he acknowledges that his institution does have a role to play in ensuring that visitors have a positive experience.